Oh my word.
Come to Dynavite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite. Everything we tried failed except the Dynavite.
Pick up 2 bottles of Super Mega
Hello, Loving Liberty.
Get the 3rd bottle free. Packed with omega-3.
It is hotter than sin in this studio right now.
Super Mega is great for
It
your
is
dog's immune system,
crazy hot.
healthy skin and soft, shiny fur.
Dogs love it. Try Super Omega Fish Oil.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
All right.
BINOVITE.com.
Whether it's for weight loss, blood sugar control, or just overall health, millions of people have been helped by low-carb diets.
Share a couple of things here.
But for most people, it's hard to get the right balance of protein and nutrition needed to succeed, especially when on the go. That's why Longevity created Keto FX bars and shakes. They work together as a low-carb, high-protein team to help you thrive on your low-carb diet. When you grab a Keto FX shake, you get 21 grams of high-quality whey protein with 0 net carbs. Our Keto FX bar gives you 18 grams of protein with only 1 gram of net carbs. And we didn't sacrifice flavor over function. Delicious and filling. Every Keto FX serving also gives you metabolism-enhancing nutrients, plus the essential vitamins and minerals you need to succeed on your low-carb diet. And it's all built on a whole food blend that's crafted from dozens of fruits and vegetables. Go to ktalkmedia.com and click on Helm for more information.
There we go.
204
Okay.
304.
Hello, Chuck. Here goes the show.
Deep down, we all know that freedom and liberty matter. This is where we discuss why they matter. This is Loving Liberty with Bryan Hyde.
Hello and welcome to Loving Liberty. I'm Bryan Hyde. Thanks for joining us today. Mo is producing the show. You can call him at 801-254-1640. And not just call him to talk to him, although I'm sure a lot of people do that, but call him and he'll screen your call and he'll get you on the air with us, and we'll have an uplifting and edifying conversation from this breathtaking point of inspiration. All right, here, let me turn the camera a little bit. I want to make sure we get Mo's smiling face. And there we go. There he is, in his glory.
In my glory.
So I got a question for you. Is there a lot of incivility out there today, or is it just me?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely hear about it every day. There's a story probably covering some incivility somewhere.
Okay, I'm going to put my cards on the table here and tell you that I'm actually a little bit worried about whatever is going to happen in Portland, Oregon this weekend.
Regarding
the Proud Boys. This is I don't know how to describe this. They are a group of individuals who are just fed up with politically correct left-wing demands that portray any degree of masculinity as toxic, that portray everybody, virtually everybody, as a victim of men, that deride Western civilization and any contributions it's made to the world. And the Proud Boys are the guys who stand up and want to go bare knuckles in the street. Well, maybe not even bare knuckles. They just want to go duke it out in the street. And this nasty little group, Antifa, which ostensibly stands for anti-fascist, but in reality the anti-FA is, they're anti-First Amendment. Any speech they don't agree with, man, they will violently go out there and intimidate and suppress. And they are so committed to their beliefs that they will actually wear masks to make sure that no one can identify them, and hoods to keep from being identified. Because that's how you can tell somebody who is doing something that is noble and wise. They always protect their identity, and they always make sure that the light of day cannot reveal who they really are.
Batman. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they probably think of themselves as Batman.
I don't know. No, but
now, I'm not trying to come down on the side of the Proud Boys here, even though typically they're not the ones to initiate violence. But they are planning a big rally on Saturday in Portland, Oregon.
They're called the Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys. And they're, some people, they're white supremacists. No, they're not.
What are their like the crazy or most outrageous claims?
They're an enemy-driven group. Mm-hmm. So this is going to sound like I'm being pretty harsh, but I'm calling it as I see it. They are an enemy-driven group that thrives on being against Antifa. And frankly, they're sick of the intimidation. They're sick of the violence in the streets. And look, Antifa, for those who haven't been paying attention, this is nothing more than a bunch of little Bolshevik revolutionaries who are out looking to start a revolution. And they're...
You're talking about Antifa, not the Proud Boys.
Antifa is very well organized. They are very committed. But again, how noble is your cause if you have to wear a mask or a hood, since I'll draw a little parallel with them and others who conceal their identity, to do what you're going to do. I'm just asking. But anyway, these two groups are going to be meeting in Portland this weekend. I don't know the location. I know it's not on federally owned property because the Proud Boys are talking about, no, we're going to have a patriot prayer. And I'll take them at their word that they are sincere about, look, we're just celebrating freedom. We're just, we're praying for America. They're very strong Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are true believers.
I would assume that.
But now they're talking about how the good news is, since we're not going to be on federal property, we can bring weapons. Up to and including guns. And of course, Antifa is saying, yeah, we have a few surprises of our own. We'll meet you out there. Can you see where this might be
No, it's
a bit of a problem?
It's almost like two gangs meeting up.
The Sharks and the Jets are going to rumble this weekend.
West Side Story?
West Side Story.
Okay.
They're very good. Wow.
I had to make sure I knew what you were talking about.
Mo is culturally literate. Yeah, so if you hear tale of these two groups snapping as they walk down the street and maybe doing some sick dance moves as they come towards one another, no, it's really scary. And wherever these groups meet up, this is the really tough part. The police will sometimes keep them apart, or keep them apart long enough to go through and take sticks or any kind of potential, expedient weapon away from them. So far, it's just been sticks, clubs, pepper spray. This last time, Antifa brought homemade explosives, more like fireworks, but it escalates. And when they met and they clashed, a lot of these Proud Boys were wearing stuff like motorcycle armor. And they came away at the end of these clashes with stab marks in their armor.
Man,
so...
The Greasers and the Socias. Do you recognize that one?
Yeah, I do.
What's that from?
The Outsiders.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Big fan of S.E. Hinton.
Oh, I like that book. It's one of my favorite books growing up.
So I'm going to be a little less than delicate in what I'm about to say, but the potential for a couple of butt heads to collide head on at 100 miles an hour this weekend is very, very strong. And I got a friend who's going to his class reunion in Portland, this weekend, and he says, I'm excited, fly out to Portland for this weekend. I'm like, well, avoid the rioting.
Right. Depending on where it is, right? I'm
genuinely concerned with what's happening, just because, look, it's been escalating. Anybody with eyes to see can tell you that. I'm not convinced that going out there and fighting in the streets is accomplishing anything. And so I would not encourage people, this is the way to solve the problem. There is a lot of incivility. And a lot of that, a lot of people will tell you that, well, the cure for incivility is we need to have political correctness, meaning enforced sensitivity. You can't think that, Mo. You can't say that. You just misapplied my pronoun gender. How dare you? But that's not the answer either. Because political correctness requires force, or it requires intimidation. I mean, somebody asked me, what is a Twitter mob? How would you describe a Twitter mob? My answer was, it is a group of jackals who are constantly on the prowl for the next public stoning.
Trolls.
Yeah, they're looking for a reason to unleash on people. We shared the article just a couple of weeks ago about the guy who used to direct the mob until the mob turned on him. And then he got a taste of his own medicine and went, holy cow, this is unreal. He can't even write under his own name anymore because without a pseudonym, he would be what's called doxxed. They would, find out his location and attack him.
I remember this guy now, yeah. He was part of, I forgot which organization, but then they turned on him, and now, like you said, but and the sad thing is, he would have never, I don't want to say it's poetic justice, but it's funny because had it not happened to him, I don't think he'd ever understand what he was lashing out or dishing out.
Based on what he wrote in his article, I would guess that he and I would probably not line up on very many topics. Still, I have respect for him for the recognition that, oh man, this was causing more trouble than it was solving.
That's so
And
easy
that's powerful.
to say I was wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I was ever wrong, I would hope I had the courage to.
Oh yeah. No, it's.
I'm just
I agree
kidding.
with you. No, I agree with you. It's not. It's easier said than done to say, oh well, if I'm wrong, then I'm the first to admit it.
And that's one of the big challenges. You know, if you encounter new truth, do you change your thinking? Do you change your life? A lot of people, as Winston Churchill said, when they stumble over the truth, they just dust themselves off and hurry off, hoping nobody saw them fall.
No, I've been guilty of that.
As have I. So when it comes to solving the problem of incivility, first of all, if anybody disagrees that there is, incivility out there, please call up 801-254-1640. I would be happy to argue whether or not incivility exists.
I mean, it's always existed. I just think we with all these channels we see it more, but it's always existed. But I still think, and it's very hard to quantify what I'm saying, but I still think, and I'm sure you echo these same sentiments, that the good people have always outweighed the bad.
And I still believe that's the case.
Right.
Unfortunately, though, incivility seems to be on the rise. I would point to the potential for violence this weekend in Portland as just one outward manifestation. I mean, people are still talking about, you remember what happened last year in Charlottesville, as if it was, this is what defines the American nation. Again, you had two very highly charged, ideologically opposed groups who collided head-on at 100 miles an hour, and when it was done, one person was dead after being run over. As much as it was made to sound like, oh, it was the fault of those white nationalists. No,
I remember the video of the car. I forgot about that.
The left wing activists were also in attack mode, and it was brutal and it was ugly, and there was nothing good that came of it. So when we come back from the break here in a moment, we're going to talk about how the toxic discourse that's going on. Somebody needs to be courageous enough to step up and try a different approach. Civility and reason are the way to go about changing hearts and minds, not more violence, more tough talk, and more heads cracked in the street, even though it may feel satisfying, to put somebody in their place. We've all had that sensation before. It may not be the best way. Stay with us. We'll discuss it coming up on Loving Liberty.
When the weather's hot outside,
All right.
cool off with a splash of K-Talk Media, 1640 AM. Oh yeah, now that's refreshing.
Has your healthcare become too much of a burden? If so, there is a way
in
out.
Southern
Open
California.
enrollment is here. This is your chance to make the change to something new and more innovative and cost-effective. Liberty Health Share is a health share nonprofit, and it's taking the nation by storm and bringing freedom back to the healthcare world. If you are ready to take control of your healthcare, call Liberty Health Share at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
Peace Legal. We're a refreshingly different type of law firm. Other law firms charge clients by the minute. Sometimes you're afraid to call your lawyer because you're worried about the cost. Not with Peace Legal. You have the option in most cases between hourly billing and flat fee billing. With flat fee billing, you know how much your case will cost up front. One flat fee, no hidden costs, and no
What's
charges.
BC got to say?
We specialize in family
I think he's
law,
gonna agree
adoptions,
pretty
divorce,
much, but
civil agreements, and enforcement of custody
his
and
name
support
Big
orders.
Chief.
We also work with
Big Chief?
businesses and
I was like, I feel like we've talked to him
planning,
before, maybe
contracts,
once.
and
I don't know.
Okay.
We
But
also handle what we call life law.
Yeah,
have
it's
you
hot
heard
in
of
here.
Order 99?
Order 99? No.
Something like that. He was talking about that. He says it's what people like Antifa use or something like that. But it was one of the last comments, or one of the last things he said. So
Okay. Well, I'll ask you. Jeanette Finicum coming up at the
You want
bottom
me
of the
to-
hour.
You want me to call her, right?
Yes, please.
After this segment?
And it'll just be like a little 5-minute interview, but this is so hard on her.
Yeah,
I was
gonna say, like, I don't even.
I talked to her briefly.
Did you do any recording?
I did not.
Okay. Well, no.
But I talked to her briefly, and I saw a video. She posted a video very, very late last night, and just was talking about how
Facebook or
utterly,
YouTube?
just on Facebook.
Oh.
She did a Facebook Live video, and it was just exhausting to sit there in the courtroom with the guys who killed her husband and listen as they spent an entire day putting Lavoie on trial and blaming Lavoie He made me do this, you know. It's the classic,
The
you know,
saddest
wife
part.
beater. You made me do this. Don't make me hurt you again, babe.
Oh my gosh. No, I can't even imagine the situation. You can't speak freely in a courtroom as an observer either, which is like,
No, you can't even have facial expressions. The marshals will throw you out if
That would be
you.
impossible.
No, it's tough.
No, I'm saying that would be, for me, you're just, come on.
I watched Ryan Bundy cross-examine
He's a lawyer?
he was acting as his own lawyer. I watched him cross-examine this BLM agent, Shalikas, who had lied to him at the beginning of the impound of their cattle, and he finally pinned him down and got him to admit that this guy had lied to him. And the guy keeps looking to the judge, save me, save me.
Objection,
And the judge wouldn't save him. And when he finally had to admit, yes, my partner lied to you, and Ryan asked him, is it common for the BLM to lie to the people that it works with? And I had to turn my head and cover my face because I was smiling so big. I was like, they'll throw me out if they see me smiling, because I was like, wow, he schooled him.
At least they got got it on the record.
They did. And it fell apart from there. The case was falling apart at that point. Welcome back to Loving Liberty. I'm Bryan Hyde. Mo is producing for me today, 801-254-1640. So we're talking about civility, or actually incivility, and how it seems to be on the rise. There's got to be something more than duking it out in the streets. At least that's the approach I'm coming from. Tell me what you think. Let's go to BC in Southern California. Hello there.
Hey, Bryan. Civility, it's been going on for a while. Ever since the internet, people have been trying to coordinate attacks on the internet. Not ever since, but eventually. It's called Order 66, and it's kind of like a civil war on the internet. Probably a lot of the people are Antifa type people. Not too many people do an Order 66 unless they're, Antifa types.
Now, is this reference to the Revenge of the Sith? Is this the
I don't know if it is or not. But I know what.
Yeah, where'd you hear the term? I guess Order 66.
Yeah, that's what they do is and they try to ruin your entire social media.
Gotcha. So essentially, it's
instability.
it's the take no prisoners mentality translated into people's online
Presence.
Yeah.
behavior. Okay.
My suggestion to people is to not let that make them not want to get involved on social media. And matter of fact, do just the opposite. Get involved and don't be afraid of Order 66s or any of that. Because you can always change your account if you need to. But also the trolls are, in a lot of ways, the trolls are part of that same group. They're not just haters. They're pretty much leftists, and they're pretty much Antifa types. And
Interesting.
Yeah, what they do is they don't put themselves out there because they don't want to be, as you put it, doxxed.
Right.
So they do everything behind the scenes. Let's say you go on this radio show now. They'll text the radio show how they hate that person calling or this, that, and the other, and it adds up, and eventually the radio station will eventually realize, these people aren't normal callers. They're just trolls. You just got to realize that,
No, I get it. And I'm accustomed to being yelled at and called names and motives questioned. The only disappointment I have is that no one has ever really gone after me of any importance. I've had a lot of, minor players who really, they swung for the fences and it hurts. It sucks. To get, to be smeared like that. But I appreciate your thoughts on this. If you have to change your account, I guess you have to change your account. I am an advocate of the idea of speak the truth even if your voice shakes. You should still be willing to speak the truth. I want to go to this article on intellectualtakeout.org. The antidote to our toxic discourse is not political correctness, it is civility and reason. And it says 30 years ago, our ability to damage people through the spoken or written word was a lot more limited. In our private lives, we might bully people in person, or we might tarnish their reputations through gossip. In the public square, newspapers and television rarely gave voice to the rumors, the innuendo, and name-calling that is so common today. And I like this part. Many reporters and commentators brought to the television screen a certain bias. That's true. But what we accept as news in 2018 would never have passed muster in 1990. It wouldn't have done it. But technology has demolished those standards. Our power to wound an opponent by defamation and falsehoods, to sully the reputations of the innocent, to blacken the name of a business for taking an unpopular stance, even to bully a few people into suicide, has increased immeasurably. Millions of people have become editorialists and faux reporters, bombarding others without regard for truth or charity. And it points out how we can see the devastation daily of what's been wrought by our words. One verbal misstep by a politician or a celebrity, Roseanne, we're looking your direction. One violation of the boundaries of political correctness, boundaries that always seem to be in a state of flux, and outcharges the cyberspace smear mob. They're there to scream their malevolence, tossing obscenities like brickbats and waving their electronic placards. They use pseudonyms for their masks, and without consequence, they hurl what have become their standard epithets: racist, sexist, elitist, fascist, Nazi. Indecency comes cheap when no one can identify you. And I identify with this. Now look, I write a weekly column for a paper in southern Utah. And I've been doing this for about 6 years, almost, 7 years, I guess. I've enjoyed this a lot, and it gives me a nice little outlet to kind of put things down and, get them out there and published. I get a lot of critics, and probably deservedly so, because, frankly, my style of writing for some people is just not their cup of tea. The only critics that I take seriously, or will consider what they have to say, are the ones who actually sign their name. Anybody else, if the courage of your convictions doesn't extend to where you would be willing to put your name on whatever you just said, then I have no use for you. You have nothing of value to offer me because you have no skin in the game. And therefore, this is going to sound really arrogant. I don't care. I will not give you the stature that you seek by responding to your attempts to draw me into an argument or into some kind of a back and forth. I'm sorry, but I've scraped better stuff off the bottom of my shoe than what you're offering. So don't be surprised if I just ignore you and let you, beg for scraps from an audience that you didn't even have the power to generate yourself. Sorry, that's...
In other words, who are you to criticize me?
Yeah, and not that I'm above criticism.
Mm-hmm.
I have some folks who have stepped up and criticized me, and rightly so, and helped me to recognize, ooh, yeah, I was pretty broad on that, or I didn't think that through carefully enough, or phrase that in a way that was easily understood, or maybe there was more to it that I didn't know. And I'm not so afraid of the truth that I can't be corrected. I want to know when I'm wrong. Mainly, it's not about so I can always look right. It's because I don't want to mislead people. I feel a responsibility. There's a stewardship that goes along with speaking out on issues, and I take it seriously in the sense that I don't want to deliberately mislead anybody or inadvertently mislead anybody. So those critics who step forward with something constructive and who are willing to put their name to it and say, look, I don't agree with you and I thought you should know this, they at least have my respect, and in many cases they have my gratitude. But the ones who are just there to fling poo and, expect, I showed you. Nah. You have no stature. Until you have the courage of conviction to where you are willing to put your name to it, you're willing to have a little bit of skin in the game, I don't owe you anything. I owe you no explanation. I don't have to justify you. I don't need your support. And frankly, it's, I don't live my life waiting for your permission or your approval of whatever it is that I'm saying. Is that too harsh? I know it's got to sound egotistical, but look, you can't stick your neck out without people taking a swipe. And learning which insults and which provocations to let roll off your back and which ones to take seriously, that comes with time and with experience. And at this point, I've had enough experience that there's a lot of that garbage I don't have to put up with, because I know the difference between what has substance and what doesn't. And sometimes those who are critical of me, they do bring substance to the table, and I'm grateful for it. It makes me a better person.
And it's not all about, but how you present your critique, right? And I think if people start with being volatile, they're not going to be taken seriously ever. And it's like, okay, what merit is there behind what you're saying? You know, what makes you think you're any better or right than me? And so I don't think what you said anything. I don't think you said anything wrong just now. Is what I'm trying to get at.
I appreciate that.
No worries.
All right, because I was going to have to ask him to leave the room if he didn't agree. No, I'm just kidding. When we come back, Jeanette Finicum will join us. We'll have a quick update on what's going on in that courtroom in Portland, Oregon. She had a pretty brutal day yesterday. Stay with us. This is Loving Liberty.
The sun's finally out. So get out.
All right.
And don't forget to bring along the refreshing sound of K-Talk Media, 1640 AM.
My apologies to those of you following online. I get on kind of a rant sometimes, but it's not just me. I mean, I'm used to getting criticized. I see other people, though, who have an opinion to offer and offer it in good faith. They're sincerely trying to offer their take in the hopes that other people will see what they're seeing from their vantage point, and it just sickens me, the glee with which these trolls pile on, and they have nothing to offer. All they have is anger and vitriol and venom, and they spew it like a manure spreader out, spreading on a field somewhere, as if that's going to make the world a better place. And wow, what a contribution! Can I nominate them for a Nobel Peace Prize? Yeah, I'm not buying it. And frankly, I've been guilty of it myself. I've been an instigator. I've been, a keyboard warrior. I will fight you to the death. I don't think it changed very many minds. So, there's probably a better way. But I would say above all, if you want to be taken seriously, be willing to put your name on it. And that's hard from a couple of standpoints. Most people are like, well, I want to be taken seriously, but I also don't want to risk, somebody coming out there with a wood chipper and feeding me head first into it. That's understandable. So the way that you avoid that, there's two ways actually. You can either say nothing, be nothing, do nothing. That's how you avoid criticism according to Aristotle. Or you have to study. You have to be willing to educate yourself to the point that you know what you're talking about, and you're willing to stick your neck out because you have done your homework. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have all the answers, but if you can say with confidence, look, I've researched this myself, that makes a huge difference. What's up, my man?
What's up?
We doing some more,
I'm about to fix your phone problem.
We got problems?
No, just the fact that you can't.
99 problems? The phone ain't one of them?
Does it let you dial from there?
Is it not letting you dial out from there? Oh, jeez.
I'll hear the dial tone, but it just, when I go to type the numbers in, it just goes to like the name and all that stuff. That's so weird.
Well, that's, yeah.
Maybe she could call.
I have no way of texting her, unfortunately. Unless you want to text her and say, hey, this is Brian's producer. Okay. You getting a dial tone?
No.
Oh, jeez. Well, this is a bummer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. Something happened.
Was it a faith healing? Be healed. Sorry. Now?
Line 4 works. Line 3 works. Line 2 does not. Line 1 does not. But 3, 4, 5, and 6 all work.
Okay.
There we go.
Would you mind asking Mo if he'll try dialing her again on the VIP line? I'll stall.
I think it's working, Mo.
Let's give her another try. Okay. Show goes on. Welcome back to Loving Liberty. I'm Bryan Hyde. Mo is my producer. 801-254-1640 is the number. We're just working right now to get Jeanette Finicum on the line with us. Had a few bugs in the phone system, and that's unfortunate. So while we get connected with her, let me come back to the idea of How do you solve the toxic discourse that's going on? Knuckles in the street, well, it may be cathartic for those who are watching. It may be satisfying for those who are, cracking heads. Doesn't really solve anything. And it's pretty intense, when you want to, if you want to be a part of, the discussion, if you want to be part of the conversation that's going on, you got to have very, very thick skin, or you've got to be willing to be as ruthless as the mob is in terms of applying its form of, internet justice. There's a great quote here from the Leaning Tower of Babel. Richard Mitchell offers this chilling declaration. These are the words of Vladimir Lenin. Lenin said, "Why should we bother to reply to Katuski? He would reply to us, and we would have to reply to his reply. There's no end to that. It will be quite enough for us to announce that Katuski is a traitor to the working class, and everyone will understand everything." So nowadays, anyone with a phone or a computer can become a little Lenin. They can take down a movie director, a young pitcher in the middle of a no-hitter. It's too easy to be the heavy. All right, we are connected up with Jeanette Finicum. Jeanette, welcome to Loving Liberty.
Hi, Bryan.
Hello there. Thank you so much for making a few minutes to visit with us today. I watched your video last night that you had posted. You did a Facebook Live video. And I wanted to... I don't want to reopen old wounds because I understand yesterday was a brutally difficult and exhausting day for you. But can you give us a thumbnail sketch of what took place in that courtroom yesterday, and was any good accomplished?
Well, we are learning things each and every day. For instance, today they talked about Ryan's hat being hit off his head, and I know for certain that as you watch the video further, you see them pick the hat and throw the hat off my husband's head after he's been shot and killed. We've learned both of the officers' names, Officer 1 and Officer 2. They've made the mistake in the courtroom of accidentally saying the last names of these men. Mm-hmm. Again, I've got to say I'm going to be responsible and not release them because I know that they continue to highlight the threat that they feel that they're under by militia and our family in particular, and I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize these men in any way. But there is no threat. There is no threat. They testified today in court that there were over 100 militia leaving John Day to come to the kill site, and so they were preparing for another fight. And that is completely false information. That never even happened. So I find that very interesting. They have to justify their excessive use of force. And so in this courtroom, we are sitting here day in and day out listening to them say armed takeover of the Malheur Refuge. These militia, armed militia, aggressive leaders that were, that is how they're referring to these people at Malheur, and that is so far from the truth.
And you went there yourself. So this isn't just, you took people's word that, hey, everything was peaceful. You actually went there yourself to the refuge. And I remember you had some trepidation before you went there, wondering, is it as bad as what I'm hearing? But when you went there, what was your reaction?
It was so peaceful. People were able to come and go. The people from town were driving in. People from all over the country were coming to see for themselves, because we have learned that we cannot trust our media. They label lynch us. They have an agenda. We have to create our own sources of media, hence your show, Loving Liberty. We need to have people like you telling us the truth, because we cannot get it from prime time anymore. And so when I went there, it was a peaceful situation. Press was coming in and out. Regular folk were coming in and out. My husband took me to breakfast. He took me to church. It was a peaceful situation. They were peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights, demonstrating, trying to get the issue of property rights in the forefront of our mind. They wanted to see if we could try to address some of these issues we've had in the West in reference to our property.
From another observer who was in the courtroom yesterday, they made the comment that this wasn't so much the trial of W. Joseph Astarita, the FBI HRT member. This yesterday was more like, hey, let's retry Lavoy Finicum and let's talk about, how he made us do all of this. Is that a fair characterization of how that discussion seemed to go?
Pretty much. And it goes that way every single day. So that's the part that's so exhausting to me, is to continue to hear them talk about a man they know nothing about. One of the most kindest, loving, peaceful people you will ever have met. And they're describing him as some kind of lifelong, corrupt, criminal militia leader. And which all of the above is not true. He didn't even so much as have a speeding ticket and never belonged to any type of organized group. I say this over and over. Only my family and my church did he belong to. You know, and I say that sincerely. He had convictions. He believed in this country. He believed in the Constitution. He believed in our right to be able to stand up and speak out our differences in a peaceful way. That's what he was doing there in Malheur.
Wow. Is it true that there appears to be some cracks forming between the FBI and the Oregon State Police? Because it seems like neither one of them is willing to assume any responsibility outside of whatever they've been able to investigate themselves and agree upon. But there are seriously some things that need to be answered. Are they experiencing some friction right now?
Well, you witnessed the FBI and the Oregon State Police. They're both on opposite sides because they're both pointing their fingers at each other, correct? And so they're on opposite sides right now. And but they will not be on opposite sides when it comes to my wrongful death suit. They will be then combined together to try to fight that. And I find that very interesting. You know, the FBI officer, Astarita, he did some things that were out of character. You know, his loud yelling back and forth. He was not in, he lost his composure during that event. He was very loud and yelling at different people, and there's other things that are coming up. But there are many officers that have testified to the fact that they saw casings on the ground, which later then disappeared. There are officers that heard the shots and testified to hearing shots 4 and 5, but nobody has testified directly at this point of who that could have possibly have been. However, they have narrowed where those sounds came from, and then they have narrowed who was in that vicinity and pinpointed as Officer Astarita.
Wow. Well, Jeanette, I know that time is short for you, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for taking the time to bring us this update. God bless, and I look forward to connecting up with you a little bit later.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you, Bryan.
All right.
I wanted to say, you know, there are so many questions that are left unanswered because both sides are somewhat working together but yet against each other, if that makes any sense at all. And the questions that really need to be asked are not being asked.
Yeah, it's got to be painful for how long it's taking the truth to come out, and it comes out just a tiny bit at a time, but I'm confident it's going to happen, and eventually it's going to be seen for what it is. And I think there will be some long overdue vindication for Lavoie, and hopefully some sense of accountability and maybe some justice for your family.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, Jeanette. We will talk again soon. That was Jeanette Finicum. We will take a very quick break. When we come back, I'm going to segue into an essay that I received in my email today about how the state has monopolized heroes. And those officers who killed Lavoie Finicum, in their minds and in the minds of their superiors, and frankly in the minds of a lot of people, they are heroic for doing what they do and for doing what they did there along that lonely snow-covered road in Oregon back in 2016. But there's a very deliberate effort to portray those who work for the state as heroes. When's the last time you saw a movie where somebody who wasn't a cop or a soldier or a government agent or a federal prosecutor or something like this was the hero, the protagonist of the story? Paul Rosenberg has a very thought-provoking essay. It's probably going to raise some hackles. I'm still going to share it with you because that's what I do. This is Loving Liberty. I'm Bryan Hyde. We'll be back right after this.
When the weather's hot outside, cool off with a splash of K-Talk Media, 1640 AM. Oh yeah, now that's refreshing.
Yeah, did you say you were going to cover?
This is the Paul Rosenberg one. In fact, let me.
What we've lost in the... Oh, no, you didn't send it to me?
I'm going to forward it to you right now.
Oh, the phone thing was so simple.
Was it? What was going on?
I'm a jackass. But, or, sorry about the live stream. But, no, but I had number
Plug
lock.
your ears!
I had number lock off.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
I'm used to just being on, so I
No,
didn't even
that-
think about that. But it's stuff
That
like
would make the difference, wouldn't it?
I love when a Christian comes in. He's like, "So you normally can dial from this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Oh, the number lock's locked. Oh. I was even saying, like, let's just pretend it was something technical, and we can tell that to Brian. But yeah.
Oh, cool. Eric Peters just posted our episode from yesterday on his website.
Does I get a good following?
Oh, he's good. He's legit, man. He's nationwide.
Like I say, I love when we get a caller from Cali or somewhere else. Because I know there's broadcasts other places, but it's nice to get some out of Utah.
I was really hoping that our friend John, who's been calling in from
the truck dude?
Yeah,
New Mexico.
It's his birthday today. I was hoping he would call so I could wish him a happy birthday.
How do you know it's his birthday? Yeah.
Jonathan, happy birthday! I know it's your birthday, Jonathan First. If anybody knows John.
Oh, he said it on the live stream?
No, I just saw it on Facebook. It came up on my feed. So.
Oh, I didn't know you had him as a friend.
I do.
Oh, okay, I got
Yep.
you. If you're out there, John, in New Mexico, we wish you the best. The man who gets all of America's commerce where it's going. Not all of it.
No, he is.
That's right.
He
Him
gets.
and Ray.
Ready, set?
Let's do this.
Okay. Welcome back to Loving Liberty. I'm Bryan Hyde. Mo is my producer in studio at 801-254-1640. If you would like to join the conversation, I would encourage you to do so. But first, I'd like to ruffle some feathers. Sorry. Something else gets rustled. I can't remember what it is. Anyways, it's the monopolization of heroes by the state. Paul Rosenberg posted this essay today, sent it out in an email. It's brilliant. Listen to what he has to say. He says, television and movies are full of heroes. Drama could hardly exist without them, of course. But he says, have you noticed that nearly every hero in modern dramas is associated with the state? And he goes, here are the dramas playing on TV in my town tonight with the heroes following. Hawaii Five-0. Who are the heroes?
5-0.
The police. That's right, the 5-0. Blue Bloods. Who are the heroes?
The Blue Bloods.
Yeah, the police. Whistleblower. Government or justice officials. But it's government officials. Without a Trace. Who are the heroes?
Without it, I don't know.
I don't watch that show either.
Neither do I.
It's FBI agents. Forensic Files. Heroes?
The forensics team.
That's right. Government justice officials. Quantico.
FBI agents.
FBI agents are the heroes. He says, and I haven't even touched on the endless Law and Order franchise. Or he says, if we venture into the realm of Star Trek, we still find heroes authorized by government, the Federation, the Prime Directive. So he says the same goes for movies. Here are 3 movies showing near me. Mission Impossible. Who's the hero?
Tom Cruise. I'm just kidding.
Okay, who does he portray?
The government.
He's a government agent, exactly. The Equalizer 2.
Denzel.
And Denzel worked for?
It's highly suggested that it's CIA.
The CIA.
But I don't think the
Yes.
CIA is ever... Well, actually...
No, he was a CIA operative.
They say it in the movie, I feel like. I could be wrong.
Skyscraper, the hero is an FBI agent. He says, you get the point. Certainly there are comedies and even the occasional exception among dramas, but the heroes of Hollywood are nearly all government authorized. Even when the government agents are portrayed as wildly out of control and dangerous. I don't know if you've ever seen Enemy of the State?
Will Smith.
With Will Smith? Okay.
And Gene Hackman.
Who saved the day in the end?
Gene Hackman.
It was a rogue government agent.
Right.
I can't. It's the government. So government plus violence equals good. That's the equation that's playing out in television and movies. And he says it's all too easy for dramas to major on violence. That's the most obvious and visceral type of conflict, after all. But to make the violence good in some way, in other words, to sanctify it, that's what's essential. And if not, we end up writing stories about very bad people who succeed, and that strikes nearly all of us as wrong. So why then should the sole agent of sanctification be the state? And he says this is a wild anomaly. What was Hercules state sanctified? How about Abraham or Moses or even Jesus? What about Sherlock Holmes or Huckleberry Finn or Robinson Crusoe or even Paul Kersey? You ever see Death Wish?
No.
Watch the original.
Death Wish.
Death Wish. That's Paul Kersey. That's Charles Bronson.
Okay, I've heard of Charles Bronson.
Okay, It's a vigilante movie, and yet it's oddly satisfying to watch him kill mugger after mugger. I'm sorry, it is. But he's operating outside the law, and it's anyway. This was at a time when New York was a pretty dangerous place. What about the Wright brothers, or Bell, or Edison, or the Curies? Were they not heroes as well? And he just goes on and on. Robinson Crusoe, and he says, Hollywood produces nearly no heroes without first presenting the state as the womb in which their heroism is formed. It's an artistic disgrace. It's a sycophantic sellout. And there are two big reasons why this is currently the case, including things like the first cop procedural made money, so everybody's copying it. But he says beneath this, there are two big drivers. Number one, U.S. government agencies are major players in Hollywood. The Independent found that the Pentagon backed more than 1,100 movies. 900 of those were between 2005 and 2017. And we're talking movies like Flight 93, Road Truckers, Army Wives. The book National Security Cinema, The Shocking New Evidence of Government Control in Hollywood, catalogs many more, and it also shows that government suppressed plot lines about illegal arms sales or the CIA dealing in illegal drugs, creation of bioweapons by the military, the interaction between private armies and oil companies, treatment of minorities by the government, torture, failure to prevent 9/11. Matthew Alford and Robbie Graham cataloged still more back in 2009. So that's one reason.
Sorry. I was just going to say, it's interesting, though, because Flight 93, the passengers are seen as the heroes, right? Because they're on the plane that doesn't make it to its destination and everything. So that's, I don't know if that's government. I mean, it is kind of gung-ho like America, but...
It is from the standpoint that government helps to make those movies by giving technical advice or by giving... by giving access, here we're portraying, the Situation Room, and here's, what we're doing to make the country safe. And
I just mean, like, in that movie, the citizens are portrayed as the heroes. And on this, what you were saying before, just shout out to Nikola Tesla, because we know he did most of Edison's real work.
Thank you.
Anyway, you were saying.
There's a topic for another day.
Right, there we go.
So the first big driver is Hollywood, and the U.S. government agencies are very, very connected. And government loves the propaganda. Do you know how many people joined the Navy 32 years ago when Top Gun was released? It was the biggest recruiting film I think ever done for the U.S. Navy.
That makes sense though. I don't love that movie. Tom Cruise in any role really kind of makes me laugh. Just
because he's legit.
And he's shorter than us, and he's just his voice, especially in Top Gun, makes me laugh.
Yep.
It's a little higher pitched,
Okay,
anyway.
So here's the next part. This is the second driver of why everybody in Hollywood, why all the heroes seem to be associated with the state, and that's because democracy has supplanted Christianity. Now, Paul Rosenberg's written about this, and all he's saying here is that, look, people used to look to the Bible as a moral standard. And when I say a moral standard, if there was a question, are there some truths that are unchanging, some guideline or ruler by which right and wrong can be ascertained regardless of time or place? And the Bible was one of those standards. That was one of those things that people relied on. That's why in court, up until very recently, if you were sworn in, your hand went on the Bible.
They don't do that anymore?
I don't know if they do or not.
I
don't know if they use the Bible. They still swear people in to tell the truth, but
but you put your hand on the Bible, don't you, when you're testifying?
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
If somebody does, I see it's because I'm so innocent and I've spent so little time in a courtroom. Everybody was sworn in by the time I got to the Bundy's trial this last time, so I don't know.
I think they still show it in movies, but it's funny to me that not to like be rude to anybody, but some people don't believe in that book, and so they don't really necessarily think lying in its name will hurt them. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So
let me give you another example though, because I know that they do use a Bible for this one.
Right.
Swearing in of a president.
Yeah.
He's sworn in, his hand's on the Bible, and he's making a solemn oath
to protect the interests of the nation or the country, right? So.
Yeah, which is often violated within microseconds. Sorry, that's the way it is. So, if you needed a character witness in court years ago, they would not call a psychiatrist in to testify to your mental state. You know who they would have called in? Your minister. That's how it used to be. If you needed a character witness, but democracy has supplanted Christianity, and so it's not to say that we were a theocracy, what he's pointing out here is he says, over the past couple of centuries, Christianity and the Bible have been removed and replaced with nothing at all. And so democracy has filled that void, which isn't really democracy, and it's simply kind of an idol. At one time, governments of the West had to show themselves legitimate by supporting and honoring the Bible, or at least holding themselves to the Judeo-Christian standards. That's at least the foundation of Western civilization. Now they show themselves legitimate by lauding this amorphous democracy, which really amounts to their lauding themselves. Yes, government, well, we're legit. Why? Because we're government. So he says we have a situation where the government is all in all. There is no outside standard by which to judge. Democracy is both the government and the justification for the government at the same time. And since logic is no longer taught in school, and since it's scary to insult power, almost everybody accepts this as the way things are. Don't make trouble. But he asks, in this situation, why wouldn't a government manipulate the stories people consume? Who's going to complain, right? A few angry heretics? So he says, given all this, are we really surprised that Hollywood turned into a den of abuse? His point is we desperately need an outside standard by which to judge the world. Our lack of one is glaringly obvious. Now he says, I can survive with the Bible as a central reference as long as nobody gets a monopoly on interpreting it. And I think that's wise. But he says if most people don't want the Bible, that's okay with me too. But we need some standard, by which he means some moral authority outside of government itself as to what is right and wrong. Because government will make everything it wants to do right simply by equating it with, well, it's legal. We gave ourselves permission, we made it legal. It's okay to waterboard people.
You know what we need to do is get Bryan Hyde in the government as a mole of our own. To shrink it from within. But you got to be willing to, you know what I'm saying? You get in there as a mole and you're part of government, but your goal is to get it smaller.
I'd rather stand in the bottom of an outhouse than be a part of government. That's how bad I think it is. So what we need is something that is separate and benevolent, separate from power and benevolent, as a standard, an outside standard by which we can measure right and wrong. Now, I don't have the answer. I don't know what that's going to be. I will tell you that from an individual basis, that's something we can figure out often for ourselves. On a society-wide basis, okay, that's a little bit taller order. How well do you understand right and wrong? Let's think about that. See you back here tomorrow on Loving Liberty.